Oh dear. What have I done? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm somewhere in these little holes. Looks like I left a mask on. Go ahead and fix that really quick. That's better. Good to see everybody here. And if you haven't already, go ahead and say something in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from. So it looks like I have a couple little things to fix on my start show macro, but we can take care of that later. Yeah, good to see everybody here. Thanks for joining. So should be a fun couple little things going on. Oh, let me get rid of the countdown. There we go. That's better. I see a bunch of questions in the chat already, so I will see if I can look through those again. Simon asks, was the music meant to stop like that? No, it wasn't. That's another problem with the macro, show start macro, which I very quickly threw together like 5 minutes ago. So got a couple things to fix there. This is what happens when you're just constantly reconfiguring the desk, is sometimes things just go wrong. Why did I switch back to the older map? Partly because I'm trying to still set all these buttons up. The globe will hopefully be back next week, and we'll see if I can make that happen. I do actually like the chat messages popping up in addition to the pins, so I'm trying to figure out a way to make both of those happen at once, where you can see these messages rolling in with the globe over them, but these don't come from the globe program. So that's I'm still working all that out. Anyway, yes, great. Thank you all for joining. So let's go ahead and I'll take these off so I can stop distracting myself. This is going to make an appearance in a little bit, though I'll tell you more about my headphone situation. Let me just quickly see if I can grab a few of these questions before they get completely lost in the chat. I see there is again, if you do have a question for me, make sure you mention either my name, Aaron Parecki, or the word question, and then it'll highlight it on my screen here. So okay, this is a good question. So this is, is there a way to replace the videos recorded in the ISO with the 4K files from the camera? There absolutely is. That's like one of the main goals with that workflow, is to be able to record the ISO feeds on the ISO itself, and get your Resolve project created with all the cuts in it, and then you can swap out the media. I don't know how to do that myself. I haven't done that. I don't have enough cameras to really make it worth the while to do that, since it requires that it requires the timestamps match and everything. So if you're using Blackmagic cameras, then it's perfect for that end to end, because you can get the time code written in there and it'll match the time code on the ATEM, and then everything will sync up. If you're not doing that, it's going to take a lot more work to like sync it, but it still should be possible. I just I haven't tried that myself because I haven't felt the need to. Actually, interestingly, most of the time I've used my ISO for recording some of the videos I've done on this channel, I actually end up not using the Resolve project that it creates, and I end up just grabbing the 4 clips, bringing them into a new project, and doing my own sync that way. I'm not sure why. I guess it's because I don't really live edit. I don't live cut my shows. I'm just using it to record 4 things at a time. So I don't really, the Resolve project doesn't actually do anything for me. I haven't done a gig where I actually would be live cutting the show yet, because I still have not left my house in almost a year now. Jonathan asks, with everything you can do with the streaming bridge, do you think Blackmagic will add other outputs to future ATEMs? Add other outputs? I do think that future ATEMs probably will have RTMP output, because it can stream to the streaming bridge. And if you look at the streaming bridge device itself, like the physical design of the device, it is that that blocky style of like their gear, right? Their little rectangle boxes with all the plugs on the sides. It's got SDI out. It's clearly meant for a broadcast and industrial grade workflow, not home consumer devices like the ATEM Mini. The ATEM Mini is a totally different design of their products, and I think it's one of the I think it's interesting that they totally broke away from their traditional style for the ATEM Mini because they were going into a new market with that. However, the streaming bridge does not match the ATEM Mini design, which suggests to me that we're probably going to see features in the larger ATEMs that do work with the streaming bridge. Totally just making this up, totally guessing, but that is my thought process here. Yeah, I got stuck in the little mask. We will talk about that in a minute. Okay. Tons of questions rolling in now. Before I get to these questions, I do want to mention something that happened on last week's stream that I think myself and maybe all of us can learn from. So last time when I did the little segment over at the table, the audio was super, super wrong. It was bad. And I didn't expect it was going to be that bad listening back to it. So that was completely my fault. Definitely made a mistake. And when I do make a mistake like that on a live show, I like to treat it the same way you would with a something going horribly wrong in like ops in the software world, where a website went down, 3 hours of downtime, and now you have to recover and do like a postmortem. So we're going to do a postmortem on what happened there. First of all, I want to figure out. So once I realized what happened after listening back to it, I was like, okay, I need to figure out what happened, what exactly was going on, fix it. How do I actually fix the problem? And then how do I make sure that that doesn't happen again? Like, what were the actual underlying causes, not just sort of the symptom? So what happened? Well, I went and looked. I could hear that the compressor was sort of like acting in overdrive. So I started looking at the ATEM, and let me go over to the ATEM on the table. So I'm going to go connect to that one. And so here we are, and in the audio tab, is this the right one? No, this is the wrong one. Why didn't it connect? Okay, it is the right one. I just have the sources named the same. So in this, the microphone I'm using is plugged in to it's an XLR mic, and it's plugged into Zoom 8 F6 running to the 1/8 inch jack into the ATEM. The microphone gain was set to negative 13.31. I don't know how it got set that way. The problem is that when it is set that way, and when I have the dynamics on, essentially what's happening is that the compressor is working on a severely reduced signal. And you can kind of hear it's picking, this is, I'm 6 feet away from it, so it's not picking me up the way it would if I was right in front of it. But you can see it's barely squeaking out a signal there. And if I change the gain back to 0 where it should be, then this is much more like what it should be. If I was actually right next to it, it would be up in the normal range now. So, and you can see the compressor is now doing its normal thing where when I'm not talking, it's clamping down, and when I am talking, it's not actually reducing the gain. And if I reduce this down to 13, then all of a sudden I have a problem where it's dropping my voice all the time consistently. So when I was doing this live, the problem was that I didn't see this view. I didn't think to look for the gain here, and I was just looking at like the sort of output levels, and I was actually looking at the output levels on one of the meters that wasn't even showing me what was happening. So I didn't have headphones. I was not looking at the right thing, and I didn't think to check if the gain had been dropped. I don't know why the gain was dropped. I don't know if that was like a macro that is left over from something that triggered that or whatever. And so I'm going to set that to 0. Now that's where it should be. So that when I go back over there, we should be back to normal. And then the other problem was, okay, so I've got a compressor on this microphone. This then feeds into my other ATEM, which if I go connect back to this one that I'm streaming from, eventually it's going to run into input 2. There was also a compressor on this one. So let me disable this one because we don't want to compress the audio twice. And that was the sort of underlying the cause of why the audio sounded so bad. Gain was reduced, so the compressor was acting on a weak signal, and I was compressing it twice because both ATEMs were doing that. Totally not a good idea. So how do I stop this from happening again? Well, hopefully hopefully I don't have like a macro that is randomly changing gain on the fly or whatever. Maybe I was just testing something out. Sure. But the real problem was that I couldn't hear myself. And that's because the headphones at this desk, it's like a 8-foot cord, which is a decent amount of length, but it runs to the back of the monitor over there, and it doesn't actually reach to the table. So what I did is I got a extension cord so that I can actually reach the headphones to the table, which means now when I run over there, I can bring the headphones with me, and then I can actually hear what's going on the air. So hopefully that won't happen again. And that is how I've dealt with this postmortem. So yeah, hopefully we can all learn from that, and hopefully it won't happen again. All right, let me see what we're doing in the chat. Can I? Yes, and I will do the same thing as last week, where I will pop over there, and hopefully I will pop over there with some even more effects this time. I have seen the gain randomly change on the ATEM Mini Pro too. Yeah, interesting. I don't know what it is. I blame myself for that. I'm not blaming the Mini for the gain changing. I just don't remember changing it or why. I do have a ton of macros left over on there. It's possible one of them touches the gain. I honestly don't remember. All right. We love tutorials around lower thirds and graphics for the Pro. So I do actually have a video about doing graphics on the Pro. It's one of the most popular videos on my channel, actually. But it's sort of an overview of a few different options. The thing to the main thing to remember is that any way you can get a video source into the Mini will work. So you can make your graphics in Keynote. You can use a program like H2R Graphics. At the end of the day, it goes into the ATEM over HDMI. The ATEM doesn't care how that's created. Okay, let's scroll back up and see what we've got for questions. AK Production says, what would you say to be the best cheap solution to chain 2 ATEM Mini Pros for 4 cameras and 4 or more cameras and graphics? How about Pi as webcam into HDMI? Oh, so interesting is that I've been trying to do this. I've been trying to figure out a way to very easily use the Raspberry Pi as a sort of webcam converter, webcam to HDMI converter. And I have not had a lot of success yet. I'm not super happy with it. I did get something to work. I'm not happy with how it works. And it requires basically using the, you have to boot up into like the graphical environment in the Pi, and then you can make a thing go full screen that shows the webcam on the screen. I don't know if it was just the webcam I was testing with the Logitech camera, but it was like, there was a bunch of artifacts on it because it's a lot of video to push full screen on the little Pi. It's not the most fastest computer in the world. I was hoping I could do the thing that I used for the streaming bridge trick, which was OMX Player, a program especially built for the Pi to push video through the graphics processor, and I could not get that to work with a webcam, unfortunately. So I don't think I would go down this road of Pi, using a Pi for the webcam conversion. We'll see. But as for chaining multiple ATEM minis together, I do think that just HDMI out is fine. And yes, you lose multi-view, but it's probably fine. So that's actually how I'll be doing this, where I have the other ATEM on the table, and I'll pop over to that one with 3 cameras plugged in over there, streaming or pushing over HDMI to this ATEM. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay. Ooh, have you had any exposure to the Lumix G100? I'm thinking of an additional camera. I'm not sure between ZV-1 and the Lumix. I have not. I've looked at the Lumix 100, and it looks interesting, but I think it's several years old, so I've sort of been holding out to see if it's going to get an update soon, if I'm thinking of the right one. G100. Oh, no, that's not the one I was thinking of. G100 looks a lot like the G7, actually. Is it a different version of the G7, or is it a totally different camera? In any case, I don't think this one's comparable to the ZV-1 in that case. Oh, it's a fixed lens. Okay, that's why. It looks a lot bigger than the ZV-1. Just gonna say. I feel like it's the... it looks a lot larger. So I don't know if I would put it in the same category. Yeah. Yes, also, this is a good point, Roland. Webcams are not very useful for producing decent videos. Most webcams don't have the same quality you're going to get anywhere near from a camera with a real lens, even a point and shoot with a built-in lens like the ZV-1. Roland is a fan of the ZV-1. It does work well. I would imagine that that Lumix is fine also. I assume it does clean HDMI out because they tend to do that with their cameras, but that would be the thing to look for. I just like how small the ZV-1 is. Maybe that Lumix is smaller than it looks. It just looks a lot bigger to me. Okay, what else we got here? Do you recommend a Raspberry Pi as one of the inputs to run lower thirds, and also suggest how better we can use the Raspberry Pi? Am I using in the current show? I'm actually not using it today. Normally I run my Stream Deck with all the buttons off of a Raspberry Pi. I think I'm going to switch back to that. Today my Stream Deck is plugged into my computer. I moved everything over to the computer to control it. The problem with running a Stream Deck on the computer is that when the computer goes to sleep or the screen turns off, all the buttons go away. And because a lot of the buttons I have in here are like for controlling the lights in the studio, I don't like having to turn my computer on before I can control the lights. And the heater. So I think I'm going to switch back to running it off of the Raspberry Pi. And but yeah, that's how I use the Pi in my show. I do think it would be a good option for doing graphics as well. Probably H2R graphics running on it would work well. I'm actually really curious to try the Raspberry Pi 4, which is the keyboard model. It's like a keyboard with a Pi built into it, because it's got 2 HDMI outs, and like it is a keyboard. You plug a mouse into it. There's nothing else to it. So I'm really interested in trying that with like a sort of like a dual small monitor setup, where one of the monitors on of the Pi, one of the monitors will be for the Pi, the other monitor will be multi-view on the ATEM. So we'll see if I can put a little kit together for that. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Joe just got the speed editor, already trying the multicam edits with the ISO. Seems so far like a great combo. Awesome. Yeah, cool. I will admit, I have the speed editor and I have tried it exactly once and did not have a lot of success with it. So, and then I was like, I need to just get this video out. So I'm going to do the thing I normally do and learn the speed editor some other day. I think the problem is I normally don't cut in the cut tab. I normally cut in the edit tab. I don't really use the cut tab, which is probably my other problem. Can people stream to my streaming bridge from OBS or YOLObox? Not really, no. Definitely not YOLObox. The streaming bridge is not a generic RTMP server. Unfortunately, somebody did work on modifying OBS to be able to stream to it. However, it requires a custom compiling it right now, so not happening anytime soon, likely. I would not count on it, no. can I use ATEM Mini Pro with a old ATEM television studio using it for controlling cameras? Probably, yeah. So if you have like I guess it depends on which cameras you mean. Although with the converters, the bidirectional converters, those should be able to control SDI cameras from HDMI or HDMI cameras from the television studio SDI now. So yeah, and combining those together is fine. Like you run, actually the television studio feeding into the ATEM Mini works great because the television studio has a special multi-view out and a program out. So you don't lose multi-view when you're running HDMI out like you do on the Mini. That said, the television studio is very picky. Everything has to match frame rates and resolutions. It does not have the scalers built in, which is why I didn't end up using it in this system here, and I've stuck with just the Minis. Doesn't the app automatically replace the files with the camera files if you use Blackmagic cameras and drop everything in the sync bin? Yeah, I don't remember the exact process, but it's pretty much seamless. I think it's because the timecode is written into both files, and it can just match it up. With no power button and the bottom of the ATEM gets very hot without the fan kicking in, how long will this ATEM last? I will say two things about that. Yes, it gets hot. However, the fan is running. It's just very quiet. If you put your hand over to the side, you'll feel one side has air blowing out, the other does not. The fan is running, it's just very, very, very quiet, which I am so glad they did that because none of their other products have quiet fans. But they knew this was going into offices and homes and things. That said, I have run mine now since, I guess, pretty much 24/7. They have been on, multiple of them have been on since about March. Once I started once I started setting up a permanent location for doing these live streams. And I have not had a problem. Like they've been fine. I do have mine on a little stand, so it's a little bit off of the table, which I guess gives it a little more airflow on the bottom. But so that probably helps. But the fact that there is no power button, like they're meant to be on. They're just meant to be on all the time. It's not, you don't need to turn them off. Okay. Oh, chat just skipped, sorry. Oh, Graham says, are you really getting only 0.1 to your stream from your ATEM? I guess that was when I was showing my computer screen. Yeah, this is interesting. It's doing that thing again. Let me hide the chat so you can see it. Down in the corner, it says the streaming bitrate, and the ATEM thinks it's pushing 0.1 megabits to YouTube. And I seriously doubt that is the case because YouTube is not complaining at me, and it's very happy to complain at me all the time. And the picture looks fine on YouTube. Actually, my YouTube console is saying that 2 minutes ago that I was pushing 7.6 megabits, which is also saying it's lower than the recommended of 4.5, which is also wrong. So YouTube is also on crack this morning. It says that number is lower than that number, which is not true. So things are just not happy. But stream looks like it's fine, so I'm just gonna not touch it. Hi, we had a live stream via Teams, ATEM Mini Pro, and the sound was not synchronous, although it was the camera microphone. So, okay, everything that I've seen about if you are running your camera microphone and not worrying about the audio inputs on the ATEM, then in the ATEM itself, it is in sync, and there's no question. The problem is the USB output to the computer, and there's a couple of different things that can go wrong. It could be that the computer is too slow. It could be that there's a USB hub in the middle, sort of messing things up, confusing it, sharing too much bandwidth with other devices. Or it could be that I've seen that just after a while, the ATEM, after it's been on and running for a while, sometimes the USB output starts getting out of sync. I don't know why. Best way to fix it is use the shortest cord possible directly between your ATEM and your computer. Don't run it through any hubs, and reboot the ATEM if you need to. And that has always fixed it for me. So also use a fast computer, because it still is quite a bit of data it's pushing through. Which timer countdown app did you use in one of your last Q&As? If it was on an iPad, it's an app called, what is it called? It's just called Countdown, and it looks like this. What is this showing me? This is a timer, yeah. So it'll just count down large, and the cool thing about this is that it outputs this over HDMI. So you can key it out and you can turn it. You can just make the numbers float on the screen. This doesn't have that many options. You get a couple of color options, but not that many. So that's it. So you can, those are the colors you can overlay. It also does do a clock mode if you just want a giant clock showing the current time on the screen, which is nice. The other thing I have used on my computer is a website called bigtimer.net, and it is just a website with a big timer on it, and you click it to start. It's great. I use that all the time on my computer. You can open it up in a tab and then share your tab through a Chromecast, for example, or Miracast, or just HDMI out to the ATEM. Both of those work great. Have you thought about using the Pi camera module instead? Yes, but I'm specifically trying to get a USB webcam thing for the Pi to convert any USB webcam, not just a camera. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Lynn. Appreciate it. Did you do a tutorial on how you set up your Pi with Companion to use it with the Stream Deck? I have not done a tutorial yet. But I can show you what I did to do it. Like, let me show you my computer. So if you go to Companion GitHub, if you go to their GitHub page, then in their wiki, they have a page here, Companion on the Raspberry Pi. And this is where they say it's not recommended to do on a 3, even though it will work. But I do have it. It does run on a 3. It does work. Okay. But they go through step by step on this, and you can download an image that you can burn directly onto the card, which is like 0 work, or you can do their manual step, which is what I did because they didn't have the images done yet. And this will then walk through. This is more work because you have to go and do all these command line things. But again, it's literally spelled out here step by step. And I highly recommend this guide. And they are keeping it up to date. As we can see, this was edited not that long ago. And that's what I did. I thought it was going to be a lot more work. And I went and found that they already had docs on this. And then I was like, oh, thank goodness. Okay. So let me drop that link into the chat. So you can find it, Companion on Raspberry Pi. And thank you for the super chat. Simon asks, how is the Mac Mini? I'm holding up for a new Mac Pro with Apple Silicon because of my current 5 displays. The Mac Mini has been fine. It's been totally exactly what I expected it to be. Like, I'm not blown away by the performance. It's not like a fast video editing machine. It does its job. It's a good computer. It's quiet. I haven't had the fan kick on or the audible fan kick on, and it is exactly what I wanted it to be. I also appreciate the price, that it is not $5,000. So I am less excited about spending $5,000 on a new Mac Pro with M1. So yeah, the Mini's been great. Okay. Yeah, so speaking of, would I recommend it as a streaming PC? Could it handle streaming using OBS? I have no idea. I haven't tried that. I probably should try it just to know if it works. I don't even think I've installed OBS on here yet. No, I don't have it on here yet. So yeah, no idea. I kind of doubt it. But I would be interested to learn if it does work well. The only thing I'm doing with it is like I'm using it as a web browser to control YouTube Studio. I'm controlling using the ATEM software control. None of that stuff takes a lot of CPU. So it's really just, I just need it to be a simple computer. I mean, 1080 isn't that much, so it probably can. I'm less confident about the 60 frames consistently, but again, I just don't trust computers. So it'll probably work fine. I found a way to do picture-in-picture with camera and computer. It uses your way, but it is a bit more sophisticated. Picture-in-picture with the camera and computer. Cool. Well, you have to post a video about that then. All right. Cool. What else? Oh, I skipped a bunch to grab that super chat. Sony Z90 or Z150? I have no idea. I haven't really been using very many Sony cameras. The Sony cameras I've used are the ZV-1, tiny one, A6400, which is my overhead camera on the table, and that is about it. Other than that, I mostly use the Lumix cameras. HereRecord has added Companion to Stream Deck, so you don't have to quit it anymore to run Companion. Oh yeah, I saw that. That was actually why I started going down this road of thinking about using the Stream Deck with my computer instead of running it off of a Pi, so I can make like a shortcut for a zoom button, zoom mute and stuff like that. But I don't like the problem where if the computer is off, the buttons disappear. So I think I'm going back to the Pi. I would like to use Streaming Bridge for broadcasting, but I saw your previous video about a Raspberry Pi as a streaming bridge. Do you suggest buying the Blackmagic Streaming Bridge or the Raspberry Pi? Here's the thing. The Raspberry Pi does a perfectly fine job at being a streaming bridge for that case. It is a lot more work to set up, and it is going to be more fragile. It'll take more maintenance to keep it up to date and things. So you run the risk of having to go fix it if it breaks. You know, yada, yada, yada. The SD card will not last forever. The SD card will wear out probably in about a year, and you'll have to reinstall it. Fine. Nice thing about the Raspberry Pi option is that you can stream to it from anything. So OBS, YOLObox, whatever can stream to it, which is super good, super nice. And you can even, once you've got the tutorial set up that I made, it's not much additional work to use it as a restreamer as well, where you can stream out to multiple places. So you can stream from an ATEM Mini to your Raspberry Pi and then push to YouTube and Facebook. A lot of good flexibility there. It is more work to set up and it is more fragile. The streaming bridge is a solid device. It's going to do exactly what it is meant to do, and that's it. However, it can only be streamed to from the ATEM Mini. You're not going to have much luck streaming to it from anything else, really. So that's the main differences there. If you're only ever planning on streaming to it from an ATEM Mini Pro, go with the streaming bridge, I would say, because it's going to be more reliable in the end. But the Raspberry Pi is a lot more flexible and cheaper. But it's more work to set up and more fiddly. Hope that helps. Bart, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Just hanging out and want to say hey. Sorry I missed your live stream yesterday, but hopefully I will catch the next one. Bart has a great channel too, and also does live streams, and just finally finished setting up a new studio, and has been having a lot of fun with decking it out with all sorts of fun streaming stuff and a lot of wiring tricks. So definitely recommend that, checking out that channel. Can YOLObox also stream to YouTube with a streaming key so I can stream to upcoming events? It can. I don't know if it can if you go through like the YouTube mode. I'm not remembering. I don't remember now if the menu works that way, but I would recommend just going into RTMP mode. You just push to an RTMP server and then plug in the YouTube RTMP settings, and then it'll work with an upcoming event. I do know the YOLObox can schedule events now itself. I just don't know if it can pick up on an already scheduled one. I'll have to double check that. I need to do another video about the YOLObox actually, because there's been a bunch of updates since my last video. So I will be doing that soon. It's got a bunch of cool new features actually that are pretty exciting. Has the Pocket 4K made it to your permanent streaming setup? More or less, yes, it has. It is over on the table over there as my main camera for the table, which I'm speaking of, I'm about due for that little tangent soon. And I'm still learning how to color grade. I am not good at colors. I have made a LUT for the table to sort of make it look close to what I think this camera looks like. It's not perfect, and I can't figure out how to fix it. So I need to get better at color grading. And then I'll be able to really have it dialed in. I basically want to match this camera, so I look the same when I go over there. You may not notice how different it is right now because I'm not going to be cutting immediately to it, but it is, yeah, it's a bit of a trick. So, okay, a couple more questions, and then I'm going to go pop over to that table because we have a new thing to check out. When recording the Mini Pro, can you use any type of hard drive? The Pro doesn't seem to recognize my hard drive. Most of them work, but some of them don't. The Samsung T7, I think, still does not work with it. The Samsung T5 does, and the one I use is a SanDisk 2 terabyte. It's and I've tried a bunch of USB drives, and those have all worked for me. But yeah, sometimes there is one that just doesn't work, and they are patching it, they are updating it to try to make it work with more drives. So if you do have one that doesn't work, like, email support and tell them exactly what model number you have, because I think they would be interested to know and be able to hopefully fix it. Do I have a Discord? I do not have a Discord. I technically do, but it's not open yet. I haven't set it up with anything, but I'm testing out notifications and stuff. I'm not sure if I'm going to. I do hang out on Discord. I hang out on John Barker's Here to Record Discord. So go check out Here to Record channel and find his Discord link. I'm also in Bart's Discord and Bart Johnson, and also in Gerald Undone's Discord. I hang out there a bunch. So you can find me there. I just don't have my own right now. I do have a forum. That's link is down in the description, and I do hang out in there as well. All right. Talk to us about headphones. Yeah, okay. So we're going to try this. What we're going to do is talk about this week's featured product. I'm going to go over to the table and show you what that is, and talk about how I use it, and talk about what it is. Oh, can I link the people I just mentioned? It's hard to pick up the names. Sorry. Yeah. Let me drop in links to their channels. That would be, I can't type. Why can't I type? John Barker from Here to Record, and Bart. I don't have Bart's channel in my autocomplete. There we go. Here's Bart's channel, and Gerald Undone. There we go. Okay. See if these show up. Here to Record. Gerald Undone. Have I done proper white balance? Probably not, no. So yeah, I still have a lot of tuning to do on the camera. It's not terrible. You'll see in a second. So here we go. We are going to talk about this week's featured product, and I'll see you back here in a couple seconds. And I'm back. Okay, sound worked. And now I've got headphones on so I can actually hear that it is in fact working. So today I want to show you this teleprompter and talk to you about why I use teleprompters. This is a teleprompter from Pergear, and this is that's what it looks like. It's got a little spot for a phone on the bottom, and it comes with a bunch of little accessories that I will talk about in a second. But I want to talk to you about first why I use teleprompters. I have found in my experience that filming and editing goes way faster if I am working from a video that I've recorded off of a teleprompter. So I've done a bunch of videos without a script before. Well, this one, for example, I'm just talking to you because this is live. But I've done a bunch of videos unscripted. And what I found is that the process of editing then goes a lot slower because I have more mistakes to edit. And I don't necessarily know that when I'm just speaking off the cuff, if it's in the right order. So I might rearrange things. When I work off of a teleprompter, then I know exactly what I'm going to be saying and what I want it to look like in the end. And the edit goes way faster. And filming goes faster. So I've started to use a teleprompter for every video since about July or August. And yes, it takes practice to read off of a teleprompter and not make it look like you're reading and not make it sound like you're reading. I think I do a pretty good job of that now. So let me know what you think, though. I've been using, I don't have it here, but I have mostly been using the little Padcaster. It's the tiny one with the little spring on the bottom, which honestly is a little bit annoying to get a phone in and out of because of how strong it is. So I'm actually really interested in this one because it works a totally different way. So this one, instead of like the Padcaster pulls down, this one has this little thing instead. And then it's got a spot for a phone. Now, this is not quite big enough for a iPad mini, unfortunately. I was hoping it would be a little bit bigger for that. But it is big enough for a phone. And I actually mainly use it use a little iPod Touch anyway. So one of the really cool things about this one, though, is it has a bunch of these little accessories for different kinds of mounts. So this is what you would slip a camera lens into, like a mirrorless or DSLR into that. And it also has ones with little cutouts for a phone. So you can slip that one in. And then, where's my phone? So then it's got a little, where is it? Little phone thing that you can attach. And if you get all the little brackets lined up right, the phone camera slips right under there. And you can use your phone as a camera too, in addition to the sort of normal one for a DSLR. So I think that's pretty cool. It comes with a remote. I will say I'm not super thrilled about the remote. Basically, it only works with their app. So you have to use their teleprompter app in order to use this remote. It's fine. The app is fine. But I actually prefer the app called Teleprompter Premium. I put it in the link. I put the link down below. So go take a look at that. The Teleprompter app, that's the one I prefer to use. And the reason is it works. You can pair another phone with it. So you can use a phone as a remote control for the other phone, which is very cool. And that way I can like leave the iPod on the teleprompter and then control it from back here where I can't reach the teleprompter. So an iPod will fit under here just as well as a larger phone like my phone would fit here. I'd probably need to take the case off for this to clamp down right, but usually I just dedicate a device to being a teleprompter. The Feelworld 7-inch monitor that I'm using as a confidence monitor for this camera also fits under here just barely. It slides right into that little notch. And that actually makes a good teleprompter monitor as well. It's almost exactly the same size as the screen. And that monitor also does flip itself. So you can use it for Zoom, or you can use it for like putting a Zoom call on, where then you can still use the screen because you can see everything in the right orientation. And or you can use it for a confidence monitor so you can look at yourself instead of looking slightly down there when I look at the monitor here. So this is going on to that stand very soon, and very soon you'll be looking at me through the teleprompter instead of me looking down when I'm trying to monitor myself. So yeah, thanks to Pergear for sending this out. This is a nice little kit, and wanted to give you a short update on that. So now I will see you back at the desk. Okay, and we're back. Oh, I forgot my headphones. Do we have audio? We do have audio. Okay, so let's see what we got in the chat. And back to you. Yes, that was my little news style transitions. I thought that was pretty fun. I have been working on that little animation for a while. I almost had it done last week and didn't quite have it done in time. So that was that's why I was like, last week. Now I get the actual flying graphics. Oh, and thank you for the super chat. Okay, let me take a look at this, and then I'm going to scroll back through the other chats. I'm trying to mimic very sudden zoom ins and outs with the Pro using flying key saved as macros, but the settings get all mixed up once I run the macros. Interesting. So I'm guessing what's happening is there's not enough of the actions written into the macro. So this is the trick is, let me show you the, cross your fingers this works. Switch back to the computer. Yes. Okay. The trick with macros is when you're recording them, if you, I don't know why, I don't need that up there. If you do, let me go to the other ATEM so I don't mess up this view. So if you're recording a macro and you're on this tab and you just like change an input, it doesn't write all the other settings into it. It's only writing the things that you're actually touching. So for example, because I'm just changing the fill source on this Luma key, but I haven't actually toggled Luma key, actually switching to the Luma key isn't in the macro yet. So if I change all my settings up and then run that macro, it's actually not going to switch to a Luma key because I haven't tapped that button. So what I like to do is toggle away from it, toggle back to it so that I know it writes that into the macro. And then go touch every setting. So toggle everything on and off, go into these text fields, press enter, flying key, press enter, like set all those in your macro so that when you run the macro, it then actually restores all of the settings. And the other thing to look for is in the XML file, double checking that all the actions are actually written. So if you go save out your project, you can load up the XML, and then you can actually look at the actions that are written into the macro. And this is really helpful. So for example, I have, well, here's the one that we just ran. When I come back from the table over to here, I want to run this sequence of events. So it is switching to a Luma key. So I know that if it was on a previous key, it's going to switch back to a Luma key. Chooses the key fill inputs, disables the mask, disables pre-multiply key, sets the key clip and gain. I've had this one, I've forgotten to not toggle the invert checkbox a couple of times. So this is, that one's in there. Basically like, yeah, so this loads up the clip, sets the speed, hits play, waits 10 frames, brings the key on the air. That's when we see the animation start. And then I have a long sleep in here for waiting for most of the animation to play. I can see the audio is then brought on, wait a little longer, and then turn off the audio from the animation. So I like to look at this after I record a macro and then sort of just run through this in my head to make sure that it works. The other thing to do is to then test it by, don't just test your macros after you make them when this is already loaded up, but then it goes switch away, change things around, like mess everything up, and then test your macro to see if it restores everything. And that is the problem with the one I did at the beginning of the show, where I did not do that. I did not check it enough because I was left in a little mask, and I can actually show you why if I go back to this ATEM. The button I pressed for starting the show was this show start button, which runs. First, I have a special macro for audio on and off. That was the other problem. I don't want to cut the audio. I actually want that to be like 3 seconds away. But this one is show pip hide DSK, and it's this macro. And here's the problem: is that it sets the key fill input, but it does not set the key source input. And this had been stuck on input 4, which is what's showing the count, doing the mask for the countdown. So it only changed that one, and then I was stuck in the mask of the countdown timer. So that is missing the, if we look at key, here's what it's called. So here's one that does work, right? Key fill, key cut. So what I should do is copy that and paste it down here, and then change that to camera 1. And save that. Get rid of that one. So now when I load this back in, the macro will actually do what I want to start the show. And that is that. So yeah, hopefully that helps. That's the main thing I've noticed with things looking weird when you're dealing with macros. And thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. And thank you, Keith. I appreciate it. All right, let me go back to the chats because I saw there were some questions coming in when I was over at the table and I didn't have the chat at the other table. Nice intro. Thanks. Cool transition. Awesome. Yeah. We need a tutorial on how you made that transition. Yeah, I mean, can I show you how it works? I don't know if I can, but it was using the Hyperdeck. So that was the secret. Let me see. Do I have this project loaded up on this computer, first of all? What did I even do that in? Now that I think about it. I think it was After Effects. I don't quite know enough about Fusion to do it in Fusion yet, but I think it was in After Effects. Anyway, most of what it was is it was Motion. It was Apple Motion, because I remember that they had a stock project that was I kind of liked. It had those angles already, and I was like, I think I know enough about motion graphics to modify this project, not creating it from scratch. Is it on this computer? It is. Okay. So I can show you most of the work is actually in the Motion project. So this is Apple Motion, and basically I went to like new from project browser, and there is a, where is it? There is a stock one in here that's very close to that. Here it is. So let me just show you what theirs looks like. This is, I need to zoom to a reasonable amount. This is what the project looks like out of the box. Right, so it's got the little scrolling text and the little animation, little arrow thing. So I was like, that is so very close to what I want, but I need it to be a little bit different. So I just started going into it and changing it around and making it work the way I wanted to, where I got rid of the first background. This text drops in over me. That black will be keyed out, be transparent. And then this gives me a chance to, while this is running, move to the other table while that's playing out. And then finally the arrow, I again made the bottom part black so that it reveals whatever's underneath it. But in that case, what's underneath it is going to be a graphic that I put in the media pool. It stays on that for a couple seconds. And then eventually that arrow comes back as green, giving me a chance to swap out the behind this back to the camera over at the table. And then again, an arrow revealing black, which then does the wipe to the camera. And then the rest of this is let's see then I had to bring this into then I had to add sounds to it. So the sound effects are a whole different. I just rendered this out as a video, brought it into, I don't even remember, probably Resolve. I actually forgot which app I used to add the sounds. It doesn't really matter. It's just adding sounds under the timeline. And then that gets saved out onto the SD card of the Hyperdeck. And then the Hyperdeck can then play that clip. Let me load it in. And now I'm going to bring my other camera back so that I can actually show you my desk again. Did not think this through. I apparently need one more camera in this setup. Oh, I didn't even use this camera at the desk. That was silly. I had it set up to be able to give you another angle at the table, rather, not the desk. And I didn't even use that angle in the end. Okay, so I'm doing this so that you can see the Hyperdeck and the multi-view. Now I need to switch my routing. Give me that camera. Where is that camera? Oh, that is the other ATEM. Okay. And the ATEM control. Too many switchers. There we go. Okay, now I can go and show you this camera. So the Hyperdeck has this graphic loaded into it, and you can see it's playing out here. And it just is, it's gonna be black, right? So what I need to do is then key it out over my video so that this should work. This is live. I'm on the live one. I believe I use the downstream key for that, which is right now showing the chat. So let me turn that off. No, I think I use the upstream key. That way I can keep the chat on. So the upstream key, we're going to use Luma, key and fill our input 4, which is this one. And if I turn that on, you should see it. Yeah, but we've got the flying key on, which I don't want. I want it to be full size. And then clip and gain, it needs a little bit of work. It wasn't the best edge. I probably should have had it more like that. And then as I go through I can just jog through this animation on the Hyperdeck. You can see that it is frame by frame revealing what's underneath it. So the key, the trick is that if I'm going backwards, right? So, okay, there we go. Drop that down while I'm standing in front of it, cover it up, roll that, and then we're going to reveal again. But I don't want to show me, I want to show the product. So I switch over to Media Player 1 right before that transition. And then by the time that the graphic covers this up, that's a couple seconds, let me scroll through, covers it up, letting me let me switch back to the camera, and then by the time it reveals it again, it's now showing my face again, or the that one, or the table. So that's how that worked. A lot of just thinking about layering and how these things are going to mix together. That's and then mostly having the work done in Apple Motion, where I didn't have to actually do too much. It was mostly just modifying the timings and the colors of that other project. So thankfully, most of that hard stuff of the motion graphics was done for me. Hopefully that was a fun explanation. Hopefully it wasn't too long. Where are we in the chat? Next time you need to toss yourself like a news anchor. Let's go to Aaron with her product of the day. Yes, I like it, Bart. I will do that next time. I actually bought this and I'm impressed with how much you get for the price you pay. Yeah, right? I know. I was also surprised. All the little inserts are actually a really good deal for being so flexible. Never thought of putting the Feelworld monitor on that. Yeah, it's a good trick. I'm actually hoping to do it for this camera as well, because I do have this little, I do have a little monitor up here, which is what I'm reading the chat off of, and I would actually like it to be a teleprompter. I just need to find one that this monitor can fit into. That's my SDI monitor, and that one is too thick for that teleprompter. So we'll see if I can figure that out eventually. That way I can be looking at the camera when I'm reading chats instead. And yes, that was the Pocket 4K. So yeah, it needs a little bit more color. I noticed the green was pretty much a match, but my face was a little bit not saturated enough. Oh, Dean asks, what headphones would you recommend for live streaming? I see you sometimes use AirPods. I use these ones. These are like cheap Audio-Technica. I think they're $50. I don't think they're probably not like good quality, but they're good enough for me. Like, it's enough to hear what I'm sending out of the ATEM. I don't use those when I am like on a live stream where I'm like talking with somebody, and I don't use them for Zoom meetings because I don't like the look of me wearing headphones. I would rather it be more subtle than that. That's why I use the AirPods. So when you're seeing me with AirPods, it's because I need to be hearing whatever's on the other end for the show. So if I'm talking to somebody or in a Zoom meeting or doing a presentation where I have people asking questions because we're in a Zoom meeting or something, then that's when I have the AirPods, because I'm actually not listening to myself. I'm listening to the computer audio. Then I actually end up sometimes putting these over the AirPods in order to monitor myself, because I don't hear myself through the AirPods. Yeah, unless you're chatting with somebody else. Yeah, exactly. I don't wear the headphones, also because I don't wear the headphones during these live streams because they're 3 frames off, and it's just enough to be distracting. I've gotten used to it where it's actually not as bad as it used to be for me to listen to myself with that slight delay. The 3 frames is just enough to be noticeable, and you have to kind of work to get over it. And the trick is that you want to like keep pausing because you can hear yourself back, which is really annoying. So I don't know. I've gotten used to it at this delay. Other cameras that have a longer delay, it's too much for me because then it sounds more like an echo. This just sort of sounds a little bit weird. But once I've confirmed that the audio is working, like if I do a transition and I come back, I want to make sure that the audio is working. Then I take the headphones off because it's just not distracting, and it's just distracting, and I don't like the look of them. Yeah. The link is in the description for that teleprompter. I saw there were some questions about that. Basically, was that play Hyperdeck, switch to ATEM, turn off mic, turn main. Yes, with one addition. So again, the summary was run the Hyperdeck clip with the key on air. When the clip fully covers the image, switch to the media player, which has the still frame of the product, the still shot, which I just took this morning. Then the animation covers the still frame. Then I switch the camera to the other camera. And the audio as well. So the audio my microphone turns off, this microphone turns off, and then right before the camera comes on the other table, that audio comes up. And that I did all as a macro in the ATEM rather than in Companion. So the button in Companion, all that does is run the macro. Oh, and then it reassigns my router. So because I reuse input 2 for either this computer screen or my other ATEM. So my other ATEM will be fed into ATEM Mini 2 input from the video router. But all of the ATEM stuff, like if you just have your other ATEM plugged in and it doesn't change, you don't need to worry about this. All of the logic is in the ATEM, which is again featured product macro. So it's this one. You can see it's a pretty long one, right? Again, key settings, Hyperdeck, play. There's a bunch of pauses I had to very carefully time based on the duration of that clip. So it's pausing just long enough for like the wipe animation to come in. So it definitely took some fiddling to get that working right, but I think it was worth it. Okay, where was I? In the chat. Awesome. Setting up a new podcast studio with an ATEM at the heart. Awesome. That's very good. You'll want to take a look at my auto switching video if you haven't already. So you can essentially make a macro that will just automatically switch between cameras at more or less random, which I think is actually really good for podcasting, where if you don't want to have to pay attention and cut cameras yourself, you can just have it switching between 3 cameras on some schedule by itself. So go take a look at that video for sure. Any other versions of the chat pop out? Wish we had a version that would work for Facebook and Zoom. I'm not going to write one for Facebook. I have zero interest in doing that. If anybody wants to do it, you're welcome to, and I will happily publish it in that plugin. Somebody is working on doing that change for Zoom. So that is almost nearly working, and then I'll be able to publish that out. It'll support Zoom. I do think I may try doing this for the Restream chat, just because if it supports Restream, then it supports a whole bunch more out of the box. So we'll see. We'll see if I get around to that. If anybody else wants to chime in, like pitch in and do that work, please do. The source code's available. If you just go to my GitHub, and it's just a bunch of CSS you have to write. All the JavaScript should work, hopefully the same for the other platforms. Hyperdeck rocks. Alpha channel looks great. Thanks. Yeah. I did that with Luma Key. So I am interested in trying it with a proper key fill, 2 sources. The ATEM Mini only has 4 inputs, so I have to eat up another one of those 2. So I can do it because I do have enough, because I can reassign the inputs on the fly. I would lose the chat during that and have to bring the chat back after the animation's done. I'm interested in trying that. I would have to make sure that my video is rendered out with proper alpha channel 2, but it's doable. Okay. For some of my Zoom meetings, I don't use the ATEM. Oh, this wasn't a question. I just thought I mentioned since Aaron likes having Stream Deck plugged into the Pi. Oh, was this about muting? Been using Vicrio hotkeys to control Zoom on my computer. Companion is running on the Pi. Oh, that's a thought. Interesting idea. Yeah, running a separate thing on your computer to be able to control it from Companion. Yeah, I'll look into that. I was also thinking about just getting another Stream Deck, like the tiny one with 6 buttons, because I think 6 buttons is honestly enough for like the zoom buttons that I want. So mainly I just want like a mute button, a physical mute button for Zoom, and like a stop share button, and like an end meeting button. So I think 6 is enough. I might just try that. If I can get a hold of one of those little tiny ones. I don't think I need a 15 button for my computer. Yeah, talked about the macro for that transition. You also make your voice higher when you have headphones on. Interesting. I wonder why I do that. I hadn't even thought about that. Maybe it's because that's interesting. I guess it's because I'm hearing something different than what I normally hear when I talk. So I like adjust to match. That's fascinating. I notice you run audio in the red on the ATEM. Don't you experience clipping? You tell me. Are you hearing clipping? Because I'm pretty sure I don't hear clipping, and I push it pretty tight. But I have the compressor and the limiter on, which should keep it from clipping. I'm not clipping on the camera, which is where you would definitely get distortion. Okay. Oh, yes, Chris. Any update on the new stand for the ATEM? So there is an update. The stand is... Do I have a shot of it now? Where did my other camera go? The stand is... Do not have a good view of this from this camera right now. This stand, although this is the white version, it'll be in black. It's got a little spot up here, which I'm not using in this setup, but at home I have my monitor mounted on top of it, and then this is a little cold shoe and this cold shoe is back here, so you can attach accessories like a microphone receiver or a Hollyland transmitter. That is very, very close to launching. It is probably going to launch this week. It'll be available on the DVE store in the US, and I did find somebody in the UK who's selling it in the UK, and I may have a connection to somebody in the EU. Again, if you know anybody who does 3D print manufacturing and set up to do retail sales, let me know. I will just let them sell this in the EU. But with any luck, we'll be able to launch it this week, at least in the US, for that launch. And when I do launch it, I'm also going to put the 3D files up as well, so you don't have to buy it. But we'll talk more about that in the launch video when I actually do get around to when we can actually launch it. So yeah, keep an eye out. Hopefully coming out very, very soon. Can you show us all the Stream Deck buttons in the companion that you have? Yeah, but I will say like this changes a lot all the time. So this is the one I'm using today. This is my layout. This is my pre-roll, which is so this router is very important to my workflow now, where I reassign my ATEM inputs to various sources. So it's grabbing the Hyperdeck video, sending it to input 4, turns off upstream key, runs a macro which does a bunch of other stuff, and then it sets audio to -8 for the music. Otherwise the music is a little bit too loud. So that's my pre-roll. And then this was the macro for the globe, showing the globe. Most of these actually run macros, but you'll see that sometimes they also do like video routing and some audio stuff that isn't written to the macro. I did not use that today. Instead, I did this one, which is show the audio, show the picture-in-picture, hide the downstream key, which is doing the countdown, which didn't quite work. Turn off the music, which also cut it off too soon. It was supposed to let the audio fade out. That'll be fixed for next week. I moved this one over here because this is my normal shows. This was the show start button for the globe version of the intro. So I'll probably move that back if I get the globe back in next week. And then most of the time I'm actually just hitting this button, which is my main camera, which again, it does run a macro because it does more than just cut. It also disables the keyers. And this one, which again, reassigns input 2 to my computer monitor out, and then waits a second for that to sync up, and then runs this macro to do computer screen, full screen, camera 1 picture-in-picture in the circle up in the corner. After waiting a second, because it takes depending on the source, it takes a second for the HDMI reassigning to work, to actually take effect. And actually, I can see that I've got this glitch again where I've got a little black border over on the right. And then this was the macro for running to the other desk. Obviously, I don't have a button to bring myself back because I'm at the desk when I need to run it. So I had to run it from the iPad over there. This is for, oh, I see there's a super chat. I'm not quite paying enough attention to my lighting. Thanks for that. But if I tap that, it's going to turn the lights back to white, which is what I do after I say thank you for the super chat, which is Graham. I appreciate it. It means a lot. Thank you. And what else? Oh, the table camera. Where am I? This, again, reassigns ATEM Mini 2 to be the multi-view of the other ATEM, or HDMI out of the other ATEM, which also sets the HDMI out to program instead of multi-view, and then cuts to it after a second. So if I press that one, you should see, let's test it. It's reassigning the input, and now it's switching to my, it didn't do a cut over there, it just set the output. So it reassigned the program out instead of being multi-view, which if I do that, now you see the multi-view of that ATEM. So I want that on program to show you just the one camera. And now I need to get back to my computer, which, yeah. And normally I don't do what I just did, which is live cut between a source that I'm reassigning. Normally I cut to my main camera and then tap the button, which gives it a second to cover up that, that little gap, because the router is not a live switcher and it is not seamless. Yeah, with macros, knowing the logic when and how to use the pauses, it is tricky. I'm trying to think of the way to describe it. You have to think of it as like, it's going to just run through the instructions as fast as it possibly can, and it's counting, it then counts in frames, right? So you can do like a sleep for 10 frames or like 30 frames for a full second. So if you're trying to time it for an animation, you have to know how long it was until you got to that point. And if you don't have any pauses yet, it'll be under a frame. If you do have pauses, you have to start adding them. And it can get tricky for sure, but frame counting, and you have to just sort of think like a machine to figure out how it's going to be processing that. Have I spent time showing how the router works? Not really. I probably will at some point again, now that I'm getting it dialed in. I kind of just mentioned it when I was going over the Stream Deck buttons, but I do want to do more of a deep dive on it, because it has been very, very, very cool. Dean says, I watched your video of the behind the scenes, and you did live stream for an event, the bicycle size one. Do you have any more behind the scenes videos? There was one I did in February. First time I used the ATEM Mini on set, like on location. It wasn't the Pro, it was the original Mini, so I also had a video assist to do the recording. And then all events shut down, so I haven't done any events since then. So no more behind the scenes because I haven't done anything. This is behind the scenes now. This is when you get to see the this setup and me talking through it. That is what we get these days. Oh, Moonpost, thank you. Good point. My chat plugin, very important update to the chat plugin. It now supports Firefox. It turns out it was actually not that much extra work, and I think that was Moonpost that figured it out, and then I was able to submit to the Firefox store. So it is available for Firefox now as well. And thank you for reminding me about that. Okay. I'm scrolling through the chat, and I am looking for some questions. My highlighting is breaking because I've been streaming too long. This is the one problem I have with my chat plugin, is it does not handle long live streams yet. But we're way over time. We're way over an hour, and I've long run into Curtis Judd's live stream. So if you want to join another live stream about sound and video things, go check out Curtis Judd. Let me drop a link to his. He's probably on right now. Nope. Where is his channel? Yeah. Okay. So we will wrap up here in a minute, but Curtis Judd is great and also much better at sound than me. So go check his live stream out. And with that, I think we are going to wrap it up here. Let's just see if there's any other quick questions I can answer. Oh, Keith asks, what is the limiter set at? Yeah, let me show you my audio settings really quick here for how I am avoiding clipping. But basically, this is how I always do it, is I shoot for up here being just slightly over that 1-to-1 to boost the levels, and I want to ramp down here so that the background noise is brought down. It requires a little bit of makeup gain to boost that back up. And then, oh, it looks like I actually don't have the limiter on. But what I'm looking at is this is the compressor. So without the compressor, I might be clipping now because you can see how it's showing red up there. Do I have my zoom? No, I don't have my zoom set up. Okay. But you can see this little red spot, which means it's potentially going to be clipping now. And with the compressor, it will, before it clips, bring it down. And again, my source audio is not clipping. So it's just a matter of whether I'm boosting it too much. And if I, again, do this too much, we're going to go into that danger zone again. And now when I'm talking loud, it's probably distorted. So I just bring it down so there's no little red line. And if you want to be really, really sure, you can use the limiter. And you don't want to go that low with it, but you can put the limiter at like -1, and then you just put a hard shelf, and it should fix it as well. But again, Curtis can explain more about what is actually going on and how to do that properly, so go check out his show as well. All right, so give this video a thumbs up. Thank you all for being here. There are links to everything in the description. I put links to the teleprompter and the accessories I use with it. I have links to other videos that I've done. Hopefully I remember to grab everything. And thank you all for the super chats. And I'm missing a button. That's what I'm doing after this ends. My outro button is missing, so I'm putting that on the screen. Hopefully this one works. Yes, thank you all for joining, and I will see you in the next video.